he was against the Great Society, you know, against the establishment. Is what Frank was more against than it, because you know he never really did any anti-war songs. That wasn't his trip. Writing about the war, his trip was about writing about the big government and why is the war happening? Well, here's why the war is happening: is because of these guys. Not because of communism or anything else that they're saying it's about. It's because these guys are making money off of it, man, and of course they were. The freak scene in Hollywood was Vito's crowd. You know, Vito was the head of the freaks in Hollywood. We used to go after all the gigs down to what was the name of that place on Fairfax, some delicatessen. It's where everybody hung out. I can't even remember the name of the place. I should be right on the tip of my tongue, but it's not. But that's where we hung out, and there was a totally other different scene happening in San Francisco. It was not the same as L.A. L.A. and San Francisco is two different animals. You know, the bands from San Francisco are different than the bands from L.A. were. The Doors were from L.A. The Byrds were from L.A. Arthur Lee and Love were from L.A. These were L.A. bands. The Mothers of Invention were from L.A. The Jefferson Airplane, wasn't even the Grateful Dead then. It was the Warlocks, the Charlatans. People like that were from the San Francisco, more of a folk rock scene than what L.A. was doing. Well, I didn't like it. But Frank said, man, you got to grow your hair long. And at the time, man, Roy and I were living in Orange County, man. And you know what Orange County is? It's one of the most conservative counties in all of the United States of America. There are a lot of rednecks there. It's Ronald Reagan territory. And by the way, at that time, that's who the governor of the state of California was, Ronald Reagan. Man, I mean, we would get screamed at and yelled at. They'd spit on you and all kinds of stuff. They saw you with long hair. What is it, a boy or girl? Shit like that. So I used to wear a fucking hood. Even in the summertime when it was hot, I put a ski hood over my head, man, to hide the hair. Especially when I got into Orange County, man. When I got into Hollywood, all that came off because you were at least safe there. And then when we got to New York, Greenwich Village was the only really safe place in New York. You'd think New York City was a haven for all, but it wasn't, man. The Village was the only place that was safe. Well, it was different than L.A. Yeah, of course, man. It's the East Coast. Different mentality of people. The Fugs were there. They were good friends of mine. I really liked those guys. Crazy guys. The Fugs, the Strangers, there were several bands, man. Pretty good bands from New York City.